Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the October 19th, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting. And with us, we have Councilmember Schneider and Councilmember Althauser and myself, Councilmember Swarthout here today. First action item we have is approval of the minutes from July 20th and August 3rd. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion approved. Okay. First thing up, we have Jared Cruz, and we're going to talk about the sanitary sewer lift station agreement with AMH Development.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Give me a second just to get my camera on real quick. Apologize for the background. I didn't have access to the City of Tumwater background ahead of time, so I'll just be blurring my camera for right now.
No, you don't want it anyway. It's so beige, Jared. You don't want our background.
It was made a very strong point to me to go ahead and do everything proper. So apologize for that. Okay, we'll go ahead and share my screen here. Just a second. Okay. Let me know if everyone can see that okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Good morning, everyone. This first agreement is with the Sienna 2 Sanitary Sewer Lift Station Agreement.
Jared, it is just
yes.
showing the notes on the side. Is that what you intended?
Oh, I apologize for that. 1 second. Let me go ahead and get this.
Do that swap where it said swap. Try that. There you go.
Okay. All right, let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. This is the Sienna 2 Sanitary Sewer Lift Station Agreement. Little background, Sienna 2 is a residential development out on Little Rock Road adjacent to Black Hills High School entrance. As part of the development, they constructed a new sanitary sewer lift station to serve the development with city sewer. The lift station was constructed with the rest of the development and completed in 2022, and the City of Tumwater accepted ownership and maintenance responsibilities for the lift station in December of 2022. You can see the lift station is located here, sort of along the eastern boundaries of the development, and pumps sewer through a pair of parallel forest mains back up to Little Rock Road and then to the existing gravity sewer where it ends in the vicinity of Little Rock Road and 73rd Avenue. The lift station area will not only provide sewer service for this development, but for the surrounding development as well. The boundary here, marked in this brown pinkish line, will serve a total of 355 acres, which is really great. We've never had sanitary sewer service to this area before, so there's a lot of existing septic systems out here for a long period of time. So also a very great environmental impact eventually for these areas that will eventually connect to the city sanitary sewer system. RCW 3591020 allows for the developer to submit essentially for what we call a reimbursement agreement, or locally a latecomer agreement, for reimbursement of the cost of the initial construction of the lift station. The lift station cost is verified through a means of copies of checks, receipts, work orders, etc. And once the total cost of construction for the lift station is established, we break it down essentially into a per unit charge, so an equivalent unit for single family homes. The equivalent unit is broken down then per fee, and will add approximately $770 to our city standard connection fees. So the latecomer agreement establishes the service area that this fee applies to, and everyone connecting directly to the lift station will pay this additional $770 upon connection, final plat, building permit issuance, etc. The City of Tumwater collects the fee with our standard permit fees at the time of construction or building permit issuance. We will collect a small portion of the fee for our administrative time and costs, and then the city issues the latecomer remaining amount back to the developer who constructed the original lift station. The agreement expires after 20 years. So after 20 years, if any additional connections come in, they would pay just the city standard connection fees instead of that additional $770 charge. At this time, are there any questions in the presentation? Much.
Gentlemen, do you have some questions for Jared?
Okay. If there are no questions, then I will go ahead and read the, oh, sorry.
Oh, I did have some questions. So on this section that is being covered, so do they also receive city water in that as well?
Yes,
Is that
they
where
do
all that
receive-
area is covered by city water? Okay.
Yes, Councilmember
So
Slaughter.
there hasn't
City
been-
water would have been extended with the development when they originally developed. They could have applied for a latecomer for that one as well, but the way the latecomer works essentially, especially with water utilities, is you can only latecomer those people that you extend the utility across. So if a latecomer for water, they extended water across so few other properties, it wouldn't have been financially really gainful or meaningful at all for them to apply for a latecomer agreement for water.
And then on the fee, does it apply to like an individual lot, or is it for each actual connection to a residence or business that's built?
It'll be each individual residence and unit that's built. So it's city sewer fees are broken down into equivalent residential ERUs, or ERU colloquially, and the fee will essentially be $770 per equivalent residential unit. So if you had a single family home, they would pay just one. A duplex would pay two. A 27 unit apartment complex would pay whatever the conversion fee is for that.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, I'll let you go ahead and read the recommended action.
Thank you. Recommended action, staff request the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the sanitary sewer lift station agreement with AMH Development LLC, which will assign additional fees for sewer connection on properties.
Okay. All right. Now if you can take it out of that mode, then I can see everyone's faces. That'd be great. Okay. Look, Michael, do you have a question? You're gonna make the motion? Or
Yeah,
question?
I move that we approve and recommend the action as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I
Aye. Okay, that's been approved. Thank you so much, Jared. All right, and move, oh, you're up again. Goodness, you're busy today. All right, now we get to hear about the right-of-way license agreement with Deschutes 106 LLC for the Falls Terrace Restaurant. And you're on again, Jared.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Swatart. Yep. Two of them today, got a couple of them. Okay, I'll share my screen on the second one. Hopefully I can do it right first time. Okay, let me know if everyone can see that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. This second presentation is on the Falls Terrace Restaurant off of Deschutes Parkway and a right-of-way license agreement that we are wanting to enter into with them. Little background on the project. The Falls Terrace Restaurant, after being closed for some time due to COVID-related issues, is planning on reopening. As part of the project, they are doing a remodel on the inside and outside of the building. The remodel on the exterior includes replacing portions of damaged sidewalk and dilapidated pavement. So portions of the pavement where they park along the front of the restaurant, as well as their loading and staging area back towards you can kind of see the Falls Terrace Restaurant there. portions of the existing restaurant are currently within city right-of-way. So we have private property within City of Tumwater right-of-way. Typically on these type of instances, the City of Tumwater will require a right-of-way license agreement, which identifies the private improvements, the private property that are located in the City of Tumwater right-of-way. And then the agreement establishes responsibilities and roles for the private developer and the City of Tumwater as a permittee, establishes allowable alterations to those existing private improvements, such as, routine maintenance, removal, replacement, etc. The right-of-way license agreement also requires insurance, liability, and automobile insurance to cover any accidents that may happen as the day-to-day business operates with their private property in city right-of-way. The right-of-way license agreement lasts for 5 years. After the 5-year period, they can choose to renew the license agreement with an additional fee, or they can choose to not continue the license agreement, in which case the City of Tumwater would expect the private property would be removed from the City of Tumwater right-of-way. The current situation has been what I would describe as existing non-compliant for a long period of time. The right-of-way license agreement process probably started, I would say, 15, 20 years ago, and obviously Falls Terrace has been there for quite some time, longer than that. So this sort of, brings them up to the current standard that we apply everyone to, and allows them to conduct repairs and replacements to the front of their building that's quite needed prior to opening. Are there any questions before I read the recommended action?
Gentlemen, do you have questions for Jared?
I do, Eileen.
Okay, thank you.
So
Go ahead,
Jared,
John.
thank you. You mentioned the 5-year agreement, and after that, then the fees. Do we know what those fees will be after 5 years, or that's yet to be decided?
We do have the fee established in the agreement. If you give me a moment to do a quick search, I can tell you what that will be. So the fee is calculated off of a square footage. So we'll take the portion of their private improvements that are located in city right-of-way, and then the agreement has a per square footage fee breakdown for that. So we currently have the fee calculated about $465. I imagine in 5 years that fee would go up a bit just for inflation and increase in administrative fees, but I can't imagine it would go up dramatically after a 5-year period, especially for such a small area.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And you mentioned $465. Is that per year or for the 5-year agreement?
For the total 5-year agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions for Jared?
Not for me.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Jared.
Very much, Councilmember Jordan. So the recommended action on this would be staff request the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor sign the right-of-way agreement with Shoots 106 LLC for the Falls Terrace restaurant, which allows private parking and loading area to be within city right-of-way.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the recommended action as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. And I just hope that that moves them closer to getting this restaurant open. That has been between the brewery questions, what's going on with that, and then when is Falls Terrace going to open again? Those are the two popular questions that we receive. So thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right, and next up, we have another right-of-way agreement that we get to hear from Mr. Kangiser, and this is right-of-way, our right of entry and maintenance agreement for the Waldrick property. And take it away, Dave.
Yeah, good morning, Council. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our Linwood Avenue site for our beaver management strategies. Linwood Avenue has historically been an area where it's been flooded. We've had to close the road in the past due to beaver activity in the ditch line. Let me for those that don't know where we are talking about, let me just share my screen real quick so we can have this to talk about. So near the corner of Rural Road and Linwood Avenue, we have the Wildrick property, and it's a fairly large parcel. We've had beaver activity in the ditch line here. The ditch line extends into Wildrick's property, where the beavers currently been working on a dam. So a right of entry agreement would allow us to get onto his property to maintain the flexible leveler that we have on the property. Mr. Wildrick is a snowbird, and so he's oftentimes in Arizona during the wintertime when we do have flooding that occurs. So this would allow us to keep the roadway open by maintaining the beaver leveler. Since we've installed the beaver mitigation devices on this property, we haven't had any flooding issues on Linwood Avenue. So these strategies are working. They're cost effective. They're very low maintenance. If there's any questions before I go to the recommended action?
Hey, gentlemen, come back online here.
I have a question.
You bet. Go ahead.
Morning, David. So
Morning.
you mentioned the cost of that. Is that incurred by the city, or do the property owners cover those costs?
The cost for the supplies to construct the beaver mitigation device is city funds.
Okay, and you mentioned devices, and I wonder if this is what Michael referenced to is the beaver deceiver. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, beaver deceiver is kind of a blanket term that we use for different beaver mitigation devices. At the Linwood site, we actually have two different devices working for us. We have the culvert exclusion device, which protects our culverts that go underneath Linwood Avenue and Mr. Wildrick's driveway. And then we have a flexible leveler, which basically is a flexible pipe that runs through the dam that regulates the water level on the upstream side of the dam. So we have these two things working for us. It's kind of I think of it more as a system of mitigation devices. And so we've actually got 3 devices out at the property there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Do we have something across the street too? I remember approving something that was in that. There's that other it's kind of a subdivision across the street. I can't remember the name of that area. They have, I thought we did something with a woman and about beavers too as well. So that area is very wet.
Yes, very wet. The Linwood site, we do have an exclusion device across the street in the right of way. But in reality, we've probably got, I don't know, close to a dozen different sites around the city where we've gotten beaver mitigation devices that are working for us. And they're all doing very well, very low maintenance. We're reducing flooding in our right of ways. So it's a tactic and strategy that's been really shown to be cost effective and it keeps beavers in place. Beavers, offer a lot of ecosystem services through groundwater recharge and the habitats they create as well. So it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody.
Council members, for that, I believe you're thinking about the device we had installed many years ago at Susitna, just down the street a little bit, and the HOA neighborhood there that we were working with to kind of help mitigate flows in the kind of the wetland behind that development between Rural and I think Liberty Road, or not Rural,
Pioneer
and Liberty roads.
Oh no, I was thinking about across the street on Rural, but it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's just all wet in there, and I understand that. And so, being someone who regularly drives through that area, I appreciate that it's not flooded during the wintertime. So
yeah.
All right.
Well,
so we have
the recommended action I'm requesting is for the city council to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the right of entry agreement for the Wildrick property.
All right. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'm on a roll today, I guess. I'll move that we approve the recommended action as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's so great that that beaver deceiver thing is working. So, all right. And now we have Dan Smith up, and we have an MOU between the City of Tumwater and Lot Clean Water Alliance regarding a purchase and sale agreement for properties in the Deschutes Valley. Take it away, Dan.
Dan, I see your lips moving, but we're not hearing it.
You also want to go in slideshow mode.
Thanks there, Mary Heather. And yeah, I'm trying to find the slideshow. Hopefully that looks like, are you seeing the right slideshow? Okay, good. I was just mentioning before I started this that I was at a presentation yesterday with the Tumwater Chamber, mentioning about the beaver management strategies that we've been employing for many years and the successes we've been having there, and Dave and his team and the stormwater folks have been employing. But this morning I'm going to talk with you about these memorandums of understanding. I'm going to combine both of them into one presentation because they basically cover the same conditions, background being a little bit different for each one. So we're going to do it in one presentation, and I'll have two formal requests at the end. Yeah, these MOUs are not purchase and sale agreements. I just want to be clear on that, but they set the city up for a period of due diligence where we can evaluate, the city's potential interest in these properties. Obviously, one such as the Deschutes Valley property here has, significant value to the community and the city. We host numerous public events on these properties, and there's some strong connections to habitat improvements that could be considered for the properties, particularly on the west side of the railroad tracks. And of course, the long planned East Street connections, helping improve transportation conditions in the city. And I'm about to sneeze, so excuse me if I end up sneezing here momentarily. Lot currently owns these properties, and they were acquired back, I want to say, in 2012 timeframe, about 10 years ago, to support a potential reclaimed water facility that was originally planned for the valley properties down here. That would have essentially treated all of the wastewater flows from city of Tumwater and converted them to reclaimed water and return those waters back to the city. That work has been kind of determined no longer necessary with expansions and improvements that are planned with the Bud Inlet plant in downtown Olympia. And so that reclaimed water is forecasted to be generated downtown and then pumped back up to Tumwater for its allocation through the agreements that we have with Lot. So Lot has determined that these properties are no longer interested, or they're no longer needed for their purposes, and are considering what their final disposition of. And of course, they approached the city knowing that we have a strong interest in evaluating the properties for city purposes as well as other community needs. And you'll see in a moment here that we have a fairly quick timeline on this. This property has been in conversation with Lot for at least the last 10 months in terms of its formal disposition, and there are a lot of interested parties. And Lot has requested that we kind of come to a decision point fairly quickly to determine whether or not we're interested in these properties and how we might use them. The MOU outlines a handful of conditions and considerations. Obviously the first, as I mentioned earlier, is due diligence. Lot will provide us all of the existing studies and reports and surveys, et cetera, that they have already generated on this property from the work that they've been doing over the last decade. They'll provide us all that information. We'll make a determination if we need any additional studies. However, Lot has an extensive library of materials that have evaluated the properties in there that I think will be very useful to the city in determining our overall use and needs for that property. Obviously, a good faith approach working between the partnerships, between the partners. Lot will make sure that we have appropriate access so we can evaluate things. This does not necessarily constitute carte blanche access for the city. Still have to negotiate those things through Lot or request access through Lot for other particular needs, whether they're events or things unrelated to this MOU. And of course, should the city decide that we were interested in moving forward, they would work in good faith with us to define what that acceptable purchasing or financing strategy might look like. And that would be something we bring back to the board before any final, or to the council before any final decisions are made. The MOU outlines that lot will obtain and pay for mutually approved third-party appraiser for the property. And so that was some benefit to the city. There is a fairly, as I mentioned, a fairly quick turnaround on this by March 31st, 2024. So effectively, as immediately as the city council approves this MOU, we will be working with an internal stakeholder group, as well as lot to gain all the materials that we need to start reviewing those and kind of determining the city's approach on or interest in the property. So if we decide that the city is interested in acquiring the property, it would require by March 31st that we just formally notify lot of our interest. At that point, lot would turn around and give about 60 days for their board to consider the necessary actions up to and including surplus of the property. Through that period, through June 24, we would be working with lot to complete what that purchase and sale agreement looks like, or if we, if necessary, agree to extend this MOU so we can continue working on the purchase and sale agreement, or conversely, if we can't reach agreement or we determine we no longer are interested in the property, by June 30th of next year, this MOU would terminate. Lot has acknowledged that any purchase and sale of the property could include both cash and non-cash considerations, up to and including 5 years to formally make that transfer complete. So there could be some extensions of time throughout there for financing strategies or things along those lines. And Lot just asked that, should the city move forward, that we would retain an easement on the property for a future wastewater line. Or other utility needs that they may have as an underground easement. Obviously, that would be negotiated through the purchase and sale process, and ultimately be determined by where Lot might need their pipelines. And then consequently, because we would be entering into this MOU, Lot would agree not to sell this property to anybody else, as the city is evaluating its interests through the term. I should mention that overall, go back a slide, the properties that you see here highlighted on the right-hand side total about 44.81 acres of land down there in the Deschutes Valley, so a fairly significant portion of property. Moving on to the Henderson, similar background for Henderson. Lot was interested in acquiring the property as part of its reclaimed water program, where the Deschutes Valley properties would be used for the treatment of reclaimed water. The Henderson Boulevard properties were to be used for infiltration of that reclaimed water, as their primary disposal process for reclaimed water at this point, since the majority of land users or users of reclaimed water don't exist for the full capacity of that reclaimed water at this point. So like they have out in Hawks Prairie, they have infiltration facilities. This would have been a similar yet smaller property for infiltration here. But given that they don't have need for the development of a treatment plant, obviously no longer a need for an infiltration facility here as well. But Inlet continues to discharge to both users like the city of Tumwater and the golf course, and Bud Inlet for the remainder of that that's not used by Lot itself or the port downtown Olympia. The city has potential interest. You may recall a few years back we abandoned well 20, which was the Trails End well. It had a fairly decent volume in terms of water production, and as the city is looking forward to potential new locations for water sources, this is a property that may have some benefit there. We recall the hydrogeology of the property through the infiltration process was functional. So if we can get the water in, we might be able to get the water out at the same time. So as we engage, you've recently approved the Carollo contract that's looking at water source development. This would be a site that we would evaluate for potential production capacity and treatment on site. And so, we have an opportunity in front of us. This property does not have the short turnaround timeline, so it gives us a little bit more time and flexibility to evaluate whether or not there is a water value to the water utility for the acquisition of this property. Beyond that, we recognize that this could also be a community asset for recreation and or open space. And so, again, similar to the Deschutes Valley properties, we would convene an internal stakeholder group on these properties, to just kind of evaluate the city's interest in acquiring these properties. As I mentioned, a little bit longer conditions and considerations are effectively the same on this one as well, except we have a longer timeline. So by October 31st of next year, so about a year from now, we would be able to let Lot know whether or not we're interested in moving forward with the acquisition of this property. And then a few months after that, by January 1st of 25, we would complete the purchase and sale agreement, should we move in that direction. Same conditions again, both cash, non-cash considerations up to 5 years for the transfer. The city would grant an easement potentially for a future utility line should Lot need something like that. As I said, next steps, coordinating with Lot after we execute the MOUs, convening the internal stakeholders to evaluate city, potential city priorities and uses, hire appraisers and consultants as needed, to help us, with those decision processes and the visioning for those properties, and then ultimately returning to council with recommendations for the Deschutes Valley prior to March 31st next year, and for Henderson Valley prior to October 31st of next year. So with that, if there are no questions, I have both formal recommendations right here, and you can read them for you as you're ready.
Dan, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
If we decide as a city to acquire the Deschutes Valley property, will we have an option at a later date if needed to sell that to a private development company?
Yeah, of course. So if the city owns any property and it determines, it is really no longer a need or a use for the community or for the city operational needs, the city always has the option to surplus property and sell back out there to the general public.
Okay, thank you. And it was good seeing you yesterday, and you kept your promise. You made it quick and easy today, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Can I actually ask, that was a good question, Chair. I have a follow-up. Dan, if the city did do that, council would still have to approve that sale, correct?
Yes, yeah, there would still be a council process for that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, no longer any more questions. I'll read them both independently because I believe there probably should be an answer for both of those. I will stop sharing my screen so Chair Swarthout can see the responses. For the Deschutes Valley properties, staff request Public Works Committee recommends City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding between the City of Tumwater and Lock Clean Water Alliance regarding a purchase and sale agreement for properties in the Deschutes Valley.
I move that we approve the recommended action as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Fantastic.
all right, that motion has been approved and we'll go tee up the next one.
Second one is for the Henderson Boulevard properties. Staff request Public Works Committee recommends City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding between the City of Tumwater and Lock Clean Water Alliance regarding a purchase and sale agreement for the Henderson properties.
I move that we approve the recommended action as presented.
I'll second that, Michael.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Fantastic.
approved. All
Thank you.
right. And those will all appear on our consent agenda come in the near future.
Correct. Should be at the
Correct.
next council meeting.
The next council. Okay, perfect.
Great.
All
Thank you.
right. Okay. So we thought this was going to run longer. You guys were very efficient this morning. The only other thing that I had asked about was just kind of getting a quick update of the transportation projects we have going on in Tumwater. And yay, Brandon, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Councilmember Swarthout. So it's actually Bill Landover's gonna give the update today because he's the manager of those projects and can speak better to any questions that you have. So here's Bill right here.
Oh, hi, good morning. You hear me okay?
You know, Yep.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'm going to do an informational presentation on our active capital projects today. It's got no recommended action associated with it, just to give you some information on what we've been up to. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Let's see, let me find it. There we go. Okay, can everybody see? Oh, I don't know what that's doing there.
can
Can
see
you
it.
see? What can you see there?
The full page, active capital project update.
Oh, you can see it? Oh,
Mhm.
oh, okay. For some reason, it's not looking right on my computer, but that's fine. So if you can see it, so I'm going to talk here about the active capital projects that we have. I'm going to talk a little bit about the projects that we have in what we call substantial completion. Then also a couple of our active projects that we have in construction, and then kind of give you a brief overview of what projects we have in design right now. So currently, over this year, the projects that we have in substantial completion, and usually this means that basically all of the construction work has been completed. Usually projects take a number of months to actually close out after the project, so we have paperwork and things like that we have to get done. But these are projects where most of the work has been completed in the field. We have the Kindred Park, Preserve Park, formerly known as Preserve Park, which was substantially complete a little while ago. The Barcliff Park and Tumwater Hill Restroom Project, those are both Don Carney's projects. We also completed the 2022 pedestrian improvement project. That was a sidewalk project. That one still has a little bit more paperwork to get closed out. And then currently this year we have the 2023 pavement maintenance project, which is substantially complete at this time. We're working through final punch list items on that project, and probably still a couple of months out from final project paperwork for that project. The two projects that we have in construction right now are the Israel Road Linderson Water Main project, and then also the Trosper Road project. So I wanted to give a brief update on those two projects, those current construction projects. So the Israel Road and Linderson Water Main project, obviously everybody can see that project going on right out in front of City Hall. So our current status on that project is that we have completed the installation of the water main and the joint utility trench, which is the main trunk lines for those all the way through the site. For the joint utility trench, all of the vaults have been installed, and we have a few more sweeps. Those are the conduit runs that go into the vaults to complete, and that system will be basically completed here pretty quick. The water main, like I said, the trunk line is in. We're working on connections at this point, so there are quite a few connections on this project to make. The upcoming work, so we're going to be doing. Right now, we're actually testing the underground utility trench. So we have to proof all of the conduits and have the vaults and everything all approved by PSC to finalize that work so that they can come in and do the underground electrical conductors, which is going to occur in probably around November. Then for the water main, we're going to be testing the water main. That's both our hydrostatic testing and also our disinfection work. That's going to occur within the next week or two. That'll probably take about a week to fully complete. And then work on connections and complete the concrete work. All the concrete work, the replacement of the sidewalks, we have temporary. We've used asphalt as temporary where we've cut through the sidewalks and whatnot out on the site. We're going to be doing that concrete work all at once, starting in about a week. For the project schedule, the project has been a little bit difficult from a scheduling standpoint. The work is being completed. It's just been, our production rates have been a little slower than what we anticipated. So we are looking at probably around, I would say mid-November to hit substantial completion, maybe a little bit later. but we are making progress on the project, so it is moving forward. The project budget, again, like all projects, it has some ups and downs with it. I think we have some specific items that are costing a little bit more than we expected, and some items that are costing less. So projection on that project budget is, I believe we're going to finish the project below our 10% overrun on the project, but it probably take another month or so to actually get a full accounting of that. So there will be some overruns, but I don't think they're going to be any more than 10% on that particular project. Trosper Road and Capitol, that project, in my opinion, has been doing extremely well currently. As you can probably see some of the improvements that have occurred out there, but there's some that you can't see, which are quite big milestones on our project. The ones that we can't see are we've completed the water and sewer systems, the underground systems. We've completed the storm system. One thing I didn't note on here was that the underground conversion, the utility work, should be completed here very shortly. So they've installed all of those underground conduits for the power conversion. We also have Lee Street is functionally complete. The work that we planned on doing on Lee Street, 6th Avenue and the 6th Avenue roundabout, and then also the Interstate 5 ramps are completed, substantially complete at this point. So all of those components are basically substantially complete. We'll still have a few punch list items to deal with. One thing to note on that project is the road closure that we did on the I-5 ramps is a great example of how road closures can really be a benefit to a project. We were able to finish that work with a pretty short, I think it was a 10-day closure of the ramps, and we finished pretty much finished those ramps within that 10-day period. So that was a big achievement by the contractor ACI. So upcoming work, right now they're working on Linda Street, so they're going to try to finish the work on Linda Street within the next week or two. And then right now they're focusing on 6th Avenue and Trosper roundabout. And I'll talk about that a little bit in the project schedule, but that's their main focus in 6th and Trosper roundabout. So from a project schedule standpoint, the contractor is they're ahead of schedule by a couple of days, which is pretty impressive on a project like this. We're about 9 months into the project. We have about 10 months to go. Project's expected to be completed in August of 2024. From a scheduling standpoint, it's going to look like 6th and Trosper roundabout up until probably now until the end of the year, and then they'll switch over to Capitol Trosper roundabout, and they'll work on that probably for all the way through the spring and into the early summer. And then after that, we'll be working on final items like landscaping and striping and things like that to finish up in August. Project budget, we're analyzing the project budget on a monthly basis to kind of see where we are. Right now, it looks like we're tracking at about 3% over the contract bid. And we have included some additional things that are total benefit to the city that have just come up due to construction. So my opinion, that's pretty good on tracking the budget right now on a project that size. And then for our active planning and right-of-way projects, the projects that we have, right-of-way and design projects, these are all the projects that we currently are at some level of design with on the project within our group. As you can see, there are quite a few projects in there to manage and get completed. There's a number of projects in planning. We have a couple of right-of-way projects that we're working on the right-of-way for X Street roundabout, and then we'll also be working on the right-of-way component for 79th Avenue roundabout. There's a number of design projects that we're working on, but I think our main focus right now, obviously, is our working with the architect on our operations and maintenance facility and keeping that project on track. And in conjunction with that is our 79th roundabout. work, which is part of that project, but just being managed kind of in a separate way. And then focusing heavily on completing our Israel Road improvement project, which is the one scheduled for next year. That's the rebuild of Israel Road, kind of in conjunction with this water line and utility work that we're doing. And then we're also working pretty heavily right now on our design of the Linwood Avenue safety improvements. The other projects are at different levels of design. So if you have any questions about those, I can answer them.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Gentlemen, do you have questions for Bill?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So for the budget for the tripartite roundabout project for Trosper and Capital, that's a teeny bit over, even though we're getting other benefits. We build in contingency to the budget, I think of what, like 10%. So we wouldn't need to authorize continued spending slightly above the budget for a while, right? Like at what point would we have to revisit the budget and do new councilmatic authority to accommodate potential unforeseen increased expenses?
Yeah, my understanding is it's 10%. Is that correct, Brandon?
That is correct. And we would actually come, if we're thinking that we're gonna get to the 10% mark, we would come ahead because we can't just stop the project.
Yeah. I mean, one thing to note there is it becomes a bit complex on, we pay our projects by units. So each item is a unit, and it becomes kind of very challenging to project a project's cost, because some units you don't use all of them and some you go over. So we do the best we can with tracking our projects to see kind of where they're gonna land in the end. But normally you can kind of tell if a project's starting to go awry, and those would be the projects we'd be taking back to council if we felt that it was kind of going down a bad path. So.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's just, kind of a tremendous amount of work. I mean, not only are we doing probably the most, I don't know, is the Trosper and Capital the most complex project the city's ever really taken on in terms of transportation? And then we also have so many other things in the work. It's really impressive, the amount of work that we're getting done across the city.
I would say that it is the most complex. It wouldn't be the largest. I think Little Rock Road projects and Tumwater Boulevard projects would be larger, but they didn't have the same challenges with utility and intersection interchange.
Yeah.
We have a very, I'm extremely pleased with our the partnership that the contractor has provided with the Trosper Road project, which makes a huge difference, is establishing a really good relationship with the contractor, and carrying that through the project makes a big difference in our ability to bring these projects through to successfully. So that's been a good experience so far.
That's great. Great work.
So I just had a question to follow up on the, so you said like on Israel Road, then we're waiting for one of the next steps will be PSC doing their underground lines. So when will we be repaving that whole section? It sounds like it'll be a bit of time before that's repaved.
I'm sorry, were you talking about the Israel Road project?
Yeah, Israel, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna, right now they're doing temporary patching, wherever they have cut into the roadway. And we're currently designing the Israel Road project. So there is a possibility that just from sheer financial standpoint, we may be leaving some of the temporary patching in place until for probably it would be about 6 months until the Israel Road project hits, and then rebuild the roadway. Anything outside of the project limits that we did work on that we're not going to hit with the Israel Road project, we're going to do full patching in those areas. if that kind of answers your question. So it may be that we'll have temporary patching for the next 5 or 6 months until we hit that road project. But we'll make sure that it's secure enough it won't create a problem out there. So
Yeah. Seems like it's really limited to that center lane. So, boy, they dig deep trenches. And do they, you were talking, those blue things that you showed in the trenches, do they stay in place then? Is that where
blue things.
Sorry, I'm so.
I think
blue
like
things
I
in the
think like
trench.
the shoring boxes on the side, the big yeah,
Do they
those
stay in
those
place?
yeah, they just put those in there for safety of the workers when they're inside, and then they
Right.
or they scoot them
Oh, they
along
pull
as
them out.
they
Okay.
can afford. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I go back and forth to the library, and yeah, it's been quite a project. So
Yeah.
so good.
Utility.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Eileen, I have
No,
two
go ahead.
questions.
What's your thought?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill, for the presentation.
Sure.
And we talked about this at the MPD meeting the other night concerning the community center. But I noticed you don't have that on your planning or design presentation. So can you kind of give me a feel of what timeline we have for any of that concerning the community center?
Community center.
So this presentation is for projects that are being administered by the Transportation and Engineering Department. We're really not part of the community center at this time. I imagine when it goes to the construction phase, we potentially would be taking it over, but I'm uncertain.
Okay. And one other question I have, and I'm not sure if you can answer this as well. You mentioned the old cemetery, and I had a privilege to experience a historical tour with the Mills Funeral Home. And I had a privilege of meeting some of the Bush family, and they expressed an interest on their family plot to plant a butternut tree. And I'm wondering if that's something the city would be open to. And it's just a thought. I don't expect the feedback from you, Bill, but it's just something I want to throw out there. It's kind of like planting a seed. If you don't plant a seed, the plant won't grow. So that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, I think both of those questions are more Chuck Denny questions, but I believe Lisa has jumped on to maybe touch on the first one.
Yeah, well, I can address the second one as well, Charlie. We will certainly take a look at that. I think some of the issues are environmental in nature in terms of when's the best time to get out to the cemetery and potentially do that. What's it going to take in terms of equipment and making sure that we are protecting, what's there before we put something in. So yes, that is on the radar screen. And then could you re-ask your question about the community center, because I caught the tail end of that, but I believe I might be able to give you a little bit of an answer on that one.
Well, thank you for that, Lisa. So I guess it might have been answered the other night and it just went over my head, but we mentioned the community center and how we're moving forward. Do we have a timeline on any of that as far as when are we going to see some design aspects of that, or what is there, if there is a timeline at all at this point?
Yeah, so we are going to be, Chuck is going to be bringing to you before the end of the year for sure, and I don't have the agenda schedule in front of me right now to answer more specifically, but definitely before the end of the year, you're going to see the scope of work from the architect to do the design work. That's going to include not only some conceptual and schematic design of the facility, but it's also going to be work on identifying site characteristics. What are the things that we want about the site and the location, access to transit routes and, those types of things will all be part of that analysis. My understanding is that's intended to take several months in 2024, largely because we want to make sure that we're having a public process. So Chuck mentioned that he's got developed and incorporated into the scope of work time to put together an advisory committee that's going to be made up of a multitude of representatives from different stakeholder groups that will help to kind of shape some of the information that goes into that process. So I would expect that we will be doing the planning work and the evaluation alternatives analysis work in earnest through 2024. And then hopefully towards the end of 2024, have some idea of, what's next. And that will be in advance of, you recall, Chuck mentioned, or maybe it was Shelley mentioned on Tuesday, 2025 is when the city indicated that it would be working to assess and levy the additional 30 cents per thousand to get us up to the 75. So if we are done with our planning work and we're doing a good job on that, and we've got some decisions made by the end of 2024, that will help to inform that process at the end of 2024. So the TMPD, when it is adopting its ad valorem tax levy for the 2025 and moving forward, we'll have we'll have much more defined information and plans in terms of what that community center looks like moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, does anybody have any more questions, or are we good?
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's just been watching all this happen. We have big projects out there, so thank you for your work on all of this.
No problem. I enjoy it. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay.
All right. So with that, it's 9 o'clock on my microwave. So we did it in an hour, guys. So do we have any additional items, anything else that we need to discuss? Anybody? All right. So with that, I will declare the October 19th, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.